Okay, good morning everyone. I declare the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting SPC 24/2 open and welcome everyone here. I shall start with the karakia. Whakatau, mai te wārua, whakawātea, mai te hinanaru, whakarite, mai te tinana, ki ea ai ngā mahi. Ai. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed and the consequences of that. I've received an apology from Councillor Daly. Can I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Councillor Murray Benge, Councillor Sol. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. I'm not aware of any late items. Does anyone have a declaration of interest? No? Okay, thank you. There are no public excluded items. I'm not aware of anyone for public forum. No presentation, so we'll move on to the main item of the reports. Item 10.1 on page 7 onwards, and the deliberations and adoption of the Waste Management and Minimisation Plan 2024. So, Charlotte.
Good morning, everyone. So just a quick reminder, the Waste Management and Minimisation Plan outlines actions for solid waste over the next 6 years. We consulted on the plan from November to December last year and we received 83 submissions. This was following pre-engagement in June where we heard from over 600 people, which helped us prepare the draft plan. The purpose of the report today is to discuss any recommendations due to community feedback and adopt the final plan. Happy to take the report as read and answer any questions.
Okay, so just to give you a heads up, I think this has been well traversed previously. I don't intend to go through the issues one by one, but do let me know if you have anything you want to raise. But before we get to the debate as such, I'd like to open up for questions if anyone has one. And I see Councillor Murray Benge.
Thank you, sir. We receive of the waste minimisation levy. How much is that? And so long as we comply, we get it. But how much is it?
Apologies for being late. It is population based, so it varies every quarter when they pay it, but it's about $280, $280,000 a quarter.
So did you say per quarter? Okay.
You said that that's based on population,
yeah. So
that's the amount that we would receive on our population.
On our population in our district. They are looking at the moment at, there is a review for the Waste Minimisation Act, and they are looking at action investment plans because of the waste levy that's continued to go up. I mean, next year it will be $60 a tonne, and that's where it's capped at the moment. So that's why we've been getting more of that fund come in, which allows us then to do the actions within our Waste Minimisation Plan. But we can only plan at the moment if they don't change the Act. You know, if it goes on as it is at the moment, we will be able to continue with the actions as it is.
Thank you. Councillor Wickers.
Good morning. Just a question on issue 3, the food waste and green waste processing. It just notes there that currently it's not considered viable to council. Could you just, for council to get involved with composting, could you give a little bit of an explanation of that?
I guess part of the purpose in formulating this plan is we haven't want to go too big with all of our actions. It does need to be reasonable. So I guess for council alone to take on composting or food waste processing probably isn't viable, but it would be more looking at partnership opportunities to go down that route. So I guess it's trying to keep it within what we can control and what we can do within our existing budgets, things like that.
So just, it wasn't from a financial point of view, it was more just from logistics and from the council side, is that correct?
Yes, yeah. I guess having the infrastructure in place is quite a big undertaking. So yeah, logistics and financial, yeah.
Is it an issue of scale as well? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Councillor Coxhead.
Just I noticed in the feedback a few comments around the tags. Is there any workaround for not using tags? Number 1 question. Number 2 question, are there examples of, I realise they would be leased, but privately run and owned recycling services and dumps?
So I can answer the first question around the tags. So we do have an action in the final and the draft WMP to review that system and I guess check in with the community that it is working. I guess we would want to roll out the same system across the districts. That's what we'd be looking at it, not on a case-by-case basis, but overall.
Sorry, can you just repeat the second part of the question?
Yeah, I seem to recall there were privately run, owned, operated businesses that were on landfills and seem to run quite well in Wellington. But I just wondered if that was something that's common now, or is it something we would consider here as well? Facilities.
There is a piece of work that we've undertaken with the Tauranga City Council and the wider Bay Councils at the moment about infrastructure needs within the bigger region. That report is in draft form now, and we were going to bring it to you after the Easter when it's all been signed off by the other councils as well. And that is actually looking at what we do with our waste in the bigger region at waste flows and where infrastructure is required. I mean, all of you will be familiar with the fact that Timanga development is not going ahead as it was planned, which actually puts some pressure on us to look at where our waste is flowing. At the moment, it's all going, our curbside waste is all going over the Carmais. But there's councils having to comply with the standardization for curbside recycling. Councils will need to come on board with organics that they collect by 2027. And all of that is bringing economy of scale in for companies to actually look at infrastructure, but it's also an opportunity for our councils, all the way from Kawerau up to Waihi Beach, which includes us, to actually look at where the waste flows and where the best place would be for those infrastructure plans to be developed. We are working closely with Tauranga City on that in collaboration with them, and we also working with our waste operators, because they obviously have the dollars to put skin in the game. I don't know if that answers your question.
When you say we're working with our waste operators, who do you mean?
Our contractors.
Okay.
At the moment, our contractor is EnviroWaste, but we're aware that the waste management has skin in the game for other councils surrounding us.
Okay, Councillor Granger.
Thank you, sir. On page 14, there's a change to the option A action. Amend action 14 to investigate and implement options for green waste disposal services. Is it implied or understood that one of the options is to not implement? I mean, if it's not feasible or economically sensible,
So
I don't think we're going to do it.
I think that's a very, I understand where you're coming from. It's a very careful reading of that. I think we added implement in order that this plan wasn't just a, we'll think about stuff, we might actually do stuff, which I think is important. I don't think there is any implication of that it requires us to implement.
Well, it says so. It says we're going to implement them.
Well, if we want to change it to and consider implementing, I'm happy to do that.
I just don't want us to go down a one-way street that we have to do something because we've said it here and it's not economically sensible.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So part of this plan is the waste minimisation levy. Anything that we want to spend that levy on or do applications to the contestable part of it, it must be in our waste management and minimisation plan, which is the driver to why we added implement in there, so that we can use that funding if we decided to go down that route. We could.
Sorry, that was a fire alarm test, which was expected before the meeting.
But we could look at that action and just add implement where viable, if that would be more comfortable.
Well, it's the same thing, and the same thing applies on page 16, where we say amend the action to investigate. Oh. What is the action? About,
Investigate, trial and implement, that's the one there on page 16, yeah?
Yes, and implement alternative solutions. Again, they've got to be viable before we, economically viable.
Yeah, and that would come through that investigation phase, but it's just making sure that if we want to implement it, we can spend the waste levy on those actions if we decided
Yes,
to.
I
go down that route.
understand
Yeah.
the addition of the word implement, but I think we need to qualify it, that we just don't say we will do things just because we put them in the plan. They've got to be viable. We're not going to waste ratepayers' money doing stuff.
Okay, Councillor Maybench.
I put cost
And
question.
implement viable solutions.
I put cost in question mark, but I think you've answered it, thank you, on my laptop.
Going back, Councillor Henry.
So we could implement viable solutions in both the amendments if you wanted to. But the way I understood that was that those extra things were, because this is a 6-year program, that was put in there. So we've already saying that we would try to implement, obviously, if it's viable. The viable option would be done. That's how I understood it from the reading that was up above it. Okay, can I just ask the recorder of the information about the figures that you gave about the Waste Management Fund, and that comes quarterly, that's actually in the minutes? Because I didn't record that. The answer that you gave to the first question.
280,000 per quarter.
Yeah, but is it not possible to put that in the? Thank you, that's good, great, thanks. So, yeah, I too had a concern about where we were going with green waste, and you've just told me, which I didn't know, that's adding a pressure on with that limitation with the only one we've got now in our region. And for obvious reasons, and that we produce a lot of it in our area through our own land holdings and our horticultural industry and stuff like that. So I don't know, not today, but more understanding about what that implies and what we can do to actually progress that further, because going over the hill is actually not a solution. And I have one more question if you want to answer that one.
So yeah, agree with that, and that will link into that wider study of the infrastructure assessment, looking at those waste flows to look at that regional or sub-regional approach to how we can best fix that. So that will be a conversation.
So that ties into what the first thing I said, that we'll be doing that, to be looking at investigating, trialling, and possibly implementing it if we come with a viable solution. Yeah, because that's been around for a while. And you know what? I can't remember what my other question was.
And come back when you remember, Councillor Henry. I've got Councillor Crawford next.
I'm just going back to what Councillor Cox was talking about. You're talking about stuff's going over the hill at the moment, saying with Te Manga not processing. So just logistically, how is Vara NZ go out and obviously they pick up a lot of volume, per collection, from the time of that's collected and then before it gets taken over the hill, because obviously those trucks that pick it up have got to put it somewhere and then put onto maybe a bigger truck to move it over. What's that going to look like in the future of sites where that is taken to and then transferred? I was just trying to see what that could look like, saying we don't have any, because there's physically got to be a place where that is picked up and then it's put somewhere before it's transferred over the hill, right?
Councillor Crawford, I'm conscious, I don't want to get into too much of the operational detail here. This is about our plan and intentions for the future, not
I
how
guess
it's
it is
work.
asking the plan, in this plan, how that addresses that, I guess, is the question.
Okay, that's a fair question.
Yeah.
Like I was mentioning, at the moment it's being consolidated here and then with Taronga City's food waste, and then that goes over the hill to Hampton Downs to be composted. What the future is going to look like is something that we're going to have to work out with our neighbouring councils And the site that it will be going to, it could be a consolidation site, but I mean, obviously, if they are going to process it, you're going to need a site where putrescible waste can be mixed with green waste. And it's probably going to be a windrow sort of system or whatever in-vessel composting that they're going to do. So they will need, or they or us, and when we investigate this, will need to find land that will allow for that to happen. But I mean, all those options are being looked at. I can't tell you exactly how it's going to look right now.
Just one more question around the trialling, especially around these recycle centres and that. So you mentioned about doing what we can manage, and that there's a whole broad thing we can do, but work with control what we can control. In these trials that we're having, these recycle centres, I was just thinking around the area of education about getting people more proactive and minimise, because this is a minimisation plan. I see education is one of those things that's in there about what that will look like too, and how do we, get more people to buy in and know what to do so we minimise.
Can you just tell me what your question is?
The question is around, okay, first of all, is about the strategy and getting more, stuff collected so it's repurposed. And so at the moment, there's only certain things we can do, certain areas, extending that. Yeah. So, these trials that you're looking at with the recycle centres.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you will recall, this came about after we presented you with a feasibility study, after the curbside collections was introduced, and Katikati and Te Puke was identified where resource recovery could but could be established, and working with community groups to see that happen. And you're aware that we are progressing one in Katikati, and we're working with Tapu Hika with the one for Te Puke. And this wider piece of work that we've commissioned, a lot of the details that you are asking me for now will become quite evident. And like I say, hopefully we will be able to present that report to you within the next month. That details a lot of how there is like looking at a hub and spoke model for resource recovery within our whole sub-region. Where there is a natural way of waste flows going, and it's called the Resource Recovery Network, that is well established right through the Auckland region as well as in the South Island. And we are a little bit late to the party with that because we had no skin in the game with getting the waste streams, control over the waste streams. And now that we do that for the curbside waste, we can actually focus on how we recover more resources. The success of those sort of centres really is determined on a passionate person or a passionate community that wants to actually make that work, and council then wraps around them to assist and support, and that is where the waste levy then comes in as well to do that.
Thank you for that. Councillor Sol.
Thank you, sir. Basically, my question is just following up a little bit on within this plan, and we're aware, obviously, that Waipa District Councillor trying to get established a incinerator. Have we been in first part of it is, have we ever been involved or invited to take part in any action like that there? And the other part would be, as I'm aware that it has been looked at around Te Puke area before in our district. If Waipa's even remotely interested in making it work, it could potentially have some issue our way. Will this plan prohibit anything in the future if it comes up fairly quickly as an option? Will we be able to move? Thank you.
I do believe incineration or pyrolysis or whatever you want to call waste to energy plants. We've done a lot of study on that in this country, and you will get a few enthusiasts that sees it as the only solution to certain waste stream problems. I think that goes directly against what we're trying to achieve with the circular economy, where you actually try and keep your resources that you've mined so expensively within circulation. And I think it would be up to this council to really make a stance and say, are you for or against waste to energy plants? I mean, otherwise it sometimes puts staff in a very difficult position when you have to contend with ideas that sounds like a magic bullet solution, and then you only have to go and look at where these plants are failing across the world because you don't have control over waste streams that you incinerate, and you've got nothing really that comes out on the other end. So,
So, I think the key question though is, does this plan prohibit that pathway or not?
no, it
It
doesn't.
does. Okay, because I'm conscious I don't want to get into this detailed discussions about future options at this point. This is a high-level plan,
Yep.
not a decision making on what we're going to do exactly. So,
Yep.
Okay, cool. Councillor Granger,
Thanks, Chair. Do I need to actually move a motion?
when we come to it, we'll deal with that then. Okay, Councillor Joyce.
Issue 5, inorganic waste collection. Unfortunately, out in Kalikali, we do seem to have a conflict with a group that was running a resource recovery operation, the Lions Club, and then despite the best intentions of all, we've now ended up with a little bit of conflict out there. So how can we, under this plan, ensure we're not treading on toes and that all parties can have a go at this, that want to have a go, because, and I realise one of the issues is everybody's looking at the higher value stuff in that regard.
So I'll answer that, Councillor Joyce, because I actually was in correspondence with who you're talking about. So the intent of the Community Recycle Centre project is never to take away from the organisations in our community that do great work in that space already. Our objective is to reduce even more stuff going to landfill, and that's purely it. So there's, I responded to the person and offered to meet with them, and I hope I reassured them that we at no time intend or was it our intention to take away from what they're doing. And in fact, going forward, maybe there's an opportunity to partner with some of those organisations, but we couldn't do it with one organisation in silo. It would have to be with all of them.
I don't think anyone's questioning the intent. It's just about how we can resolve the issue and does make sure we're not locking in one plan, because there may be more than one person doing this, right?
Can I comment on that? I think we are a free people, and we can actually choose who we want to support. And I know that certain community groups draw the support of certain people. So we all know who this group is. And I believe that when we did the feasibility study in the beginning, when we did WHOIS within Karikari and around the district, every community group was invited to actually come to the party. I mean, we didn't deliver personal emails to everyone, or the group that was undertaking the feasibility study. But I mean, it was never a secret of what we are trying to establish at the Recycle Centre, to turn it into a resource recovery park. And I must admit, I mean, it came to quite a surprise that all the containers that was behind the Celtics garage there this is actually what it is, because I wasn't aware that they were doing it. I don't live in that community. But yes, we are getting more than the stuff that they're actually collecting. I mean, they're going for high-end value stuff that they can sell without having to fix or repurpose or strip or change. And the stuff, if you go and have a look at what is coming in, is actually things that people can use to tinker with or use. So I know that the community group that is running the trial has reached out to this group as well. They even have one of their members on the Chrome Collective board. And yeah, I think with, and Kerry and I, happy to go and meet with them to actually show them what we're doing. So I don't, with all due respect, probably a little bit of a storm in a teacup, and hopefully we will be able to move past that.
Thank you, Elsa. Councillor Henry.
I think that was the fact that a sofa ended up at the refuge centre and that sparked all that off, and thank you for dealing with it, and thank you for making the connection with them, because they have been doing that job for a while. My question is around way back when you did go out to the community, and yes, community groups had the opportunity to come. Community groups also had the opportunity to make submissions, which those ones didn't. So they had that opportunity, and I fully acknowledge that. But I had the belief that an organisation that I was involved with had a solution for recycling green waste. And I don't know whether they presented it to you, but in that initial invitation, did you have groups coming in with wanting to work with green waste within our community?
So actually, Councillor Henry, how does this relate to the plan itself? Because we are trying to discuss the waste management.
Okay, well, I can ask that offline then, perhaps we can talk about that.
That
offline.
might be.
All right, just to get the current trial, which we've got in here, is in the plan. I can ask a question about that. Thank you. Just to remind me, it's a 6 months like a review, but it's actually over 2 years. Is it? Is that right? With support, I mean.
Yeah, it's a 6-month trial and we'll reassess it at the end of 6 months.
I've got the 2 years from somewhere, I don't know who got. Is there any that? Handover time, is that what it is?
I think at the moment, this first month has come to an end and we've got a review at the end of next week with the group to actually look at where we're going, what's happening. And I mean, to just leave it till the end of 6 months if it's folding in the month 3. So the whole idea was to establish a resource recovery site at the Karikari Recycle Centre. The community group that's in there at the moment is getting the benefit of establishing that for the people with disabilities. And if this trial proves successful, there's no question that we would continue and bringing this back to council to see what model we will enter into with them on. We still maybe operating, paying for the staff, and there's many different models throughout the country at the moment that we can glean to see how we then partner with them going forward and staying at the site. So to say it's 6 months and then it's gone is basically, well, you need an ongoing centre.
Well, that's what I was saying. You can't, 6 months is, you can't establish something. It's an ongoing thing. So 2 years would be a fair period, if that's what I'm saying, if that's what it was with council support to fully develop.
Yes.
And be sustainable after that period.
Yes.
That's the question I was asking. The other thing that there was a little bit of concern with some people, which is, I don't know why, about education, because education is the key to everything that we do in our lives, and with the right education, we will behave in the
So is this
right
a question?
way. So, the education, can you talk around the education component of this plan, and is it in the schools, and how is it educating the parents of those kids that go to school? Can you talk about that, how that works?
Resource recovery and recycling education at the moment is not just done for all the schools in our district. The curriculum does touch on resource recovery and not just recycling. With the new waste strategy, they've actually incorporated the fact that we don't want to dispose, and recycling is not the be-all and gold standard. It is actually repurposing, refusing things. So that is filtering through all our schools and even in our preschools at the moment. For curbside recycling and standardisation, there was a national campaign, and our council is also involved in that. You'll see it through our website, you'll see it on our social media going out. So I am quite confident that what we are doing at the moment is actually educating people. And I mean, by running a trial like this is one of the best education that you can do, because the moment people bring in stuff, they know if they can or can't recycle, or it can't be repurposed, and that might be residual waste going to landfill in the end. So comfortable that we are looking at all of the education programs that we are running at the moment, and if we see that there's a need to do a better behaviour change program around the recovery of resources, we're happy to look at that.
And just supplementary to that, all of that is coming out of the Waste Minimisation Fund, all the educational
Yes, it is.
components that you're currently doing.
Yes, it is.
I've got Councillor Murray Benj and Councillor Cox. I'm
No,
conscious
no,
we're going round some again, but
Councillor Sol actually asked the question.
okay, thank you, Councillor Murray Benj. So lastly, I've got Councillor Coxhead, if you've still got a question.
I've got two quite disparate questions. The first one's the easiest one. What are we supposed to do with palm, like what's, palm waste, when you cut down your palm trees and they won't be accepted at the centres? What do people actually do with those?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to talk to you about that offline, but palm leaves actually goes into your rubbish bin, goes to a landfill.
Have you seen
Best
how
idea
big
is
my
not to
palm
plant them in
leaves
the
are?
first place.
Yeah, I was asking for a friend.
Okay, let's give it one time.
And the other question is, like, this is an observation over a long period of time. We've moved into very much consumerism where we, our inorganic waste, is huge because we don't repair things, like fridges, freezers, blah, blah, blah. We all know about that. Have you ever read, or has there ever been any research done at a central government level around how we can improve in terms of making things to last?
The whole circular economy that MFE has been driving over the last couple of years is actually focusing on the right to repair. So yes, in central government terms, it is in their mind, and that is the whole reason by establishing resource recovery parks that you could have a repair cafe being part of such a centre going forward.
That more focuses, in my view, on recycling what's already been produced, and I agree with that, like couches and repurposing things like that. But it's not, I think the key piece is actually building things that actually do last and are reparable, as opposed to, a laptop might last you 5 years or a fridge would last you lucky if you're 10.
Yep, so that's consumerism though, isn't it? So people do build things to last, but the cheaper stuff isn't built to last and people tend to go
So
for
the pressure
cheaper
needs to
stuff.
come on the people producing them, yeah.
Cheaper stuff,
Mm.
yeah.
So just further to that, many countries are introducing or have introduced the right to repair legislation to try and make things last. New Zealand hasn't yet done that. Part of some of the actions that we can do is lobby central government and talk to them about legislation changes when they go out for consultation. So we can push for those sort of initiatives as well.
I'm conscious we're getting to a philosophical debate rather than an actual debate. Look, I would like to, Councillor Murray Benj, go on.
So just a simple question. I noted when you talk about the rural pickup that we do, and I think that's excellent. Are you talking to Tauranga City at the same time? Because Poripori Road, they found washing machines down in the stream. Kumi Kumi Road came in. They had lounge furniture dumped on the side of the road in days gone by. And I just wondered, is there cooperation between the two units of government to actually make sure that the rural community doesn't suffer with the dumping from the city?
Councillor Thwaites, let's let Ilse ask.
Yes,
answer.
we are working together with Tauranga City Council. We actually have a group that meets regularly to look at illegal dumping signage, to see what the hotspots is in both our districts, to see what there is that we can do, the two councils together, to actually speak to one another. And then regional council also has a role, because the moment, as you know, it lands in a waterway, it is not one of our two councils, but it's actually regional council that look at it. So I can emphatically say, yes, we are working together.
Okay, thank you. So we've got 6 recommendations there. I'm following Councillor Granger's comments. I'm going to suggest that for issue 2 and issue 5, we change the word implement to implement if desired, and that should assuage his concerns on that one. Issue 4 as well, okay.
Through the chair, we can make a note of it and go through and double check that and use resolution 6, the C's delegation, to make those minor editorial changes to tidy that up as well.
Okay, so we'll provisionally include that, but just double check to make sure the wording achieves what we want it to achieve, and I think we understand what Councillor Granger was after there. Okay, so and I assume if I take a mover and seconder that it's to adopt rather than not adopt. But other than that, do I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Joyce, Councillor Granger. Is there any further debate on this? Councillor Mowbenj.
Oh, well, the first thing I want to do is compliment our staff because they have diligently pursued the issues that have been of concern in the waste system. And we have quality staff that cannot be replaced. And I think we're very lucky indeed. But I will go back to 1979 when I visited
Do we have to?
a rubbish, when I visited in Singapore, what they did with their rubbish. And in 79, they had a German piece of equipment where they burnt all their rubbish. And I note that there is a company, we had Mark Boyle came in years ago with a proposal for burning of rubbish, but we weren't big enough for that as a population base. And so ultimately, if there's one developed up in the Auckland region, we should be able to look and see how we can get some stuff up to there and be part of that process. So I think that we are doing as well as anybody in the country, and I think our staff are to be congratulated. And I'm sure, Sue, that our community will appreciate the work that this council has done in leading the way on waste disposal.
Thank you,
Thank
Councillor.
you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further speakers for or against? No? Okay, in which case I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, team. So with that, with no more information for receipt, I will declare the meeting closed at 10.